Good afternoon. Today is the 25th of October and this is not a very vague vlog. It's not vague at all. It's a very specific video where we'll be discussing something that my lady wife actually informed me about, and subsequently found out that it was quite an interesting topic. So gentlemen, you out there who have lady wives, it's good to listen to them. That's a general piece of advice in life that I have. So the subject of today is an article that has appeared in various publications. The one that I was initially informed about was the Daily Telegraph, but I found I couldn't actually read the article without having to sign up for a subscription or something, so I actually read it in the Daily Mail, which if it only had appeared in the Daily Mail, perhaps I would be a bit concerned about the validity of it, but as it's appeared in both publications, I'm sure it's the case. But it's about people who've done research at Auto Trader using SMMT data. You know, we love SMMT data on this channel. That's how we get the top 10 best-selling cars information for every single month. To predict that in 2027, so in 5 years' time, 40% of all cars on the road in this country will be over 10 years old. Now that's quite an increase. That's an increase of something like 3.6 million on today. And I think we know the reasons for that. It's because the cars which would have been made had we not had the global pandemic, they don't exist. They don't exist, so people are holding onto their cars longer. And another reason for that is because cars are more expensive. Both new and used cars are more expensive than they were in, say, 2019. Part of this is moving to, you know, electric cars, which cost more to make, and you know, the fact that if you want to order a new car today, you might have to wait up to a year for just a normal car, as opposed to, say, a Ferrari, just like a Ford or an MG or something like that, might take a long time to arrive. And so some people just don't want to bother waiting. Other people would have been able to maybe afford a newer car, but they can't, because second-hand car prices are so much higher than they used to be. The research done for this these two articles by Auto Trader suggests that the average price of a second-hand car from 2012 is now £2,000 higher than it was in 2019. I think that's right. It could be 2021, but I think it's 2019, and that is about £6,000 for a car from 2012 today. Just over about 6,200. That's actually 50% higher than it was when they have got their figures from, you know, inverted commas, an average year. So it is true. I keep telling people this is the case, that second-hand car prices have increased dramatically, and you know, you don't get for your money what you used to get. You just sort of don't. And whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know. I think it means that obviously we will see cars being kept longer and older cars being on the road in larger numbers. When this prediction is true, 40% of all cars by 2027, according to this research, will be over 10 years old. Now, one of the things I'm very intrigued about, and I'd like to hear from you about this, if you say took a car from 1992, so a 30-year-old car now, but in 2002, would that car have been more reliable than a car from 2012 today? Obviously a lot of cars at that time had really bad rust problems. I spent the last few weeks filming a lot of cars from, say, the late 80s and early 90s, and the biggest problem with them generally was rust. Obviously there are other things, electrical problems, not doing a cam belt, suspension problems, all these sort of things which might take something off the road. But the biggest thing I think that was a problem was rust. Now that tends to be less of a problem now. It is still a problem. If you look around and you see a Dacia Duster in white from 2013, 2014, something like that, they have chronic rust. There's one that lives actually quite near where we live in Eastleigh, and it's awful. It's really bad. It's not to say at all that actually rust problems are a thing of the past, but I think generally, if you just say take a Vauxhall Astra for example, Vauxhall Astra H, those were made between 2004 and about 2009 or 10, depending on what exact model they were. Those don't seem to be rusting a lot, whereas say a Mark III Astra, those were pretty bad rust, just like everything else was. It's not necessarily they were worse. I've tested a lot of the cars of that era on things like Central for Second-Hand Reviews and No Budget Reviews. The cars made between, say, I don't know, 2007 and 2012. I've tested loads of those, and actually quite a few, if you like watching those videos. You don't tend to like watching the brand new cars at the moment, apart from if it's a certain type of MG, which seems to be very successful. But you want to see the older ones. So, in your experience, do you think a car in 2002 that was 10 years old would be having fewer problems then as a 10-year-old car now? That's the question I'm really after, or an answer to. I'm also aware that quite recently, Mr. Hunter from Jeff Buys Cars, who's a very nice chap, I have actually done a video with him, which is on his channel before, and I'm hoping to do some more at some point soon. He has done a video on the scrappage scheme, which is by far the most successful video on the Jeff Buys Cars channel. It's like almost over 100,000 views or something, which for a channel which is the size that it is, which is slowly increasing in size, is amazing. Now he talks about all the cars that were scrapped in 2009 on that scheme. One thing, something to just bear in mind, that anything, not just that, but anybody who decides to sell like an older car that they have, so sometimes the car's at the end of life, and if you are having a huge discount off a new car, whether it's scrappage or it's something else, it could be that just the deal of the car is very good, but the deals on new cars aren't particularly good at the moment, but for years in this country they were. Then you might be very much incentivised just to get a car that's not breaking down, that's not rusting, that doesn't need so much work, and you don't know anything about cars necessarily, so you don't have the kind of sort of enthusiasm or maybe even a nostalgia in terms of it works. And so I'm not really necessarily opposed to people buying newer cars if they need them. A lot of people just do. You've got to realise that most of the stuff that's being sold at the moment, the new stuff, are just going to be electric ones for a moment, because those are still very much increasing rather than the standard thing. But just say, look at the sort of top sort of 5 best sellers with things like the Volkswagen Polo and the Vauxhall Corsa and the Nissan Qashqai. They're not particularly interesting cars themselves. I've driven the current Corsa and the current Polo, and they're absolutely fine. It's just not the sort of thing that I tend to talk about very much, because I kind of think, looking at the videos that I've done on those cars like that, but you're not that interested in them. Certain brand new cars you are, from what I can see, but there's nothing wrong with having a car like that. There's no particular reason not to. Just a lot of you prefer to drive the older cars. I mean, here I am. I'm driving around in a car that's 19 years old. I've had this car 2.5 years. You don't get me wrong at all. I like driving and owning older cars. I think it's great, but sometimes I just prefer to take one of the modern ones that I have access to, the Scion, which is 2019, or the Mercedes of 2017, and those are just better in some ways for a lot of the tasks. For the really long sort of journeys of hundreds and hundreds of miles, they tend to be a little bit better. And in many ways, you've got more equipment, and they're sometimes a little bit more comfortable. They tend to use less fuel, but they do have their sort of random crazy problems that the newer cars, through the older cars, just don't have. If you look inside the interior of this, we haven't got any colour screen or any touch screen or anything at all in here. We haven't got an electronic handbrake in here. We don't have a lot of emissions equipment on this car. We've got a very old catalytic converter, the original one to the car. Newer cars tend to have more of that. They tend to be larger. They tend to, you know, need more sort of parking areas and things like that because you can't see them. They're even larger due to these safety concerns and things like that. Now, you know, all of us were safer cars, and you know, SsangYong's very safe, Mercedes is very safe. Never had to find out exactly what's happened in those, but I do just wonder: is it going to be a problem when we have these older cars and they, you know, have all these sort of safety aids and electronic aids in them that the cars from 30 years ago didn't have? Is this going to be a problem? Anyway, I think that's enough for today. Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and there is a follow-up video I'd like to do on this as well, and maybe we'll see that soon. Thank you. Lloyd Young Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below.